Hi guys, welcome back to the So Sad Tuesday Talk, SSTTBB, and I will continue to do that because it only makes Nate mad.
No, that makes
That
Eric
makes
mad.
Eric
Oh, it's
mad.
Eric?
I don't
It's
give a
Eric?
shit.
It makes someone
Yeah,
mad, and so that's why I'll keep doing
yeah, it's Eric.
it. So SSTTBB!
Oh,
I just can feel Eric cringing inside. I don't know
just
why.
grinding them teeth like this girl.
He's so angry. But it's episode 3, and this time we thought we would maybe talk a little bit about esports and maybe where they're going and the feasibility of them growing and maybe becoming more mainstream and all of that. Does anybody have any thoughts to lead off, or does anybody have anything to discuss before we start jumping into esports?
No announcements, guys.
No,
I
no
mean, like the,
announcements. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
the only thing that I really want to talk about is this last week in Overwatch League.
Overwatch League.
It was so crazy. There were two upsets in Boston beating London and Philadelphia beating New York. So now London, New York, and Seoul are no longer undefeated.
Yeah, they're all 5-1.
And it's proving that, and all three of those games went to game 5. It was a 3-2 match, which they were extremely exciting. They always came down to the last second. It was interesting to see how they dominated different match types. And it just kind of proves that the Korean teams are not unbeatable. They
Yeah,
can be beat.
yeah, they're just some game types that they just can't win or like they're not good at.
Yeah,
So
I
that
know.
was interesting to see the flaws in some of the game types where they were
Mhm.
losing.
Yeah. I think that Seoul really struggles with control point maps, right?
Yeah, they really do.
I think that Shanghai beat them actually on a control point map.
Yeah,
Shanghai beat them once. Holy
yeah,
shit.
they beat them
Yeah,
once.
it's pretty sad when Shanghai is beating you. Although Shanghai is making a comeback. They took Philadelphia to game 5 on Friday, so that was exciting. And
They
then
are no longer the what's it called? Shanghai youngsters.
No, it's good though because this is a long series, so they have plenty
yes.
of time to adjust.
Hmm.
So I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean they're gonna be playing these teams for like a while anyways, so I mean over time, like what's it called? You can probably feel the burnout, especially like I feel like most of the Korean teams.
Yeah,
Is like, yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like that's a goal that's going to be an upset here and there, and you'll start to see that win and
yeah,
loss kind of even out with all the other teams.
yeah. You'll see
Hopefully,
the
Fuel will bring it back.
yeah. I mean, you'll see the mental fatigue kick in. I've seen it in all kinds of esports, like different competitive games. I've seen it all. You know,
You can get tired.
hmm like I've
And
seen
this
people
series is hard,
melt.
especially because you're playing 2 games a week for 5 weeks, and then you have a week off, and then you start all over again.
Yeah, because I mean, like I watch fighting game esports events, and like typically people only play one or two matches in like other games, like a day. But in like let's say Street Fighter for instance, you're playing like 8 games within the span of 8 hours, maybe more. I think eight's minimum, to be honest.
Really? That's a lot.
Yeah, you have to play a lot. That's assuming you're constantly advancing through the brackets. If you lose, then you're done. But like if you're on a winning streak or like you're winning your matches, like you can play a lot during a day. It gets very exhausting.
This is tournaments, right? This isn't necessarily like a league. This is a tournament play.
Yeah, these are actual sanctioned tournament events. Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with leagues, you're not going to be able to maintain that, but with tournaments, that makes total sense.
Yeah. Especially because you're playing like Evo just happened. Evo Japan just happened. Which they had for Street Fighter. They had like 2,200 plus people play.
Holy,
So
holy shit!
yeah, it's pretty big. Although it's funny though because the prize pool for like fighting games is significantly smaller than like any other competitive game type.
Do you have any idea of why that might be?
I think because the fighting game scene is just smaller. It's not as well known, I guess, and it's not as pushed
That
as
makes sense.
heavily. Let's say as like Overwatch or League of Legends or Dota 2. So
Or CS:GO.
yeah, like there's not that
Yeah.
much money. Like Dota, the their biggest event is called the International. I forget how much the prize money, but it was 10 million minimum for the
Oh my
prize pool.
god.
Like it was
Damn.
insane. It's one of the biggest prize pool money in the in then any competitive esport history. So And even League of Legends gets six figures, maybe even seven. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could live a really comfortable life off of
But I
that.
mean, like some of the players don't even get that money. You know, it goes back to the organization.
Yeah, it's hard. But then the organization, of course, because they're sponsoring those players, right? So it's kind of like a circle of life sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Was it one of like the teams on for was it overall league like sponsored by Pop Tarts or something? It was like funny. It was like a food
Probably.
it was like a food company or something like that.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I forgot who it was. I thought some of it was Pop Tarts, but that might be wrong.
What?
That'd be funny though.
Well,
Dallas is
Pop Tarts.
sponsored by Jack in the Box,
Yeah, yeah, they are. That's maybe that's the one I'm thinking of.
but Pop Tarts would be a fantastic person to sponsor.
I don't know. You just kind of think of like when you're watching like NASCAR and they have like a bunch of like what's it called sponsorships on the car. It's
Yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah.
all over the
Kellogg's,
shirts.
stuff like that. It's hella funny.
That's funny.
I don't know. It's kind of it's just interesting as far as with like the Overwatch League, how that's set up. Kind of reminds you of like kind of like almost like football. And just like how it's just having it's going through its like courses as far as doing all these games and then just kind of like leading up who's going to be number one on top.
Hmm.
And it's like and then you kind of see something like with like because like I know you just mentioned before it's like how like the fighting tournament scene's not as big as like say like Overwatch or FPS ones. Kind of
Hmm.
like kind of like I just thought about it for like a second as far as like with like something like Street Fighter. It's kind of like just watching like a boxing match. Like it's gonna be a long match, but at least like there's gonna be something happening, and then when it happens, as far as like people getting strikes, and it's like oh yeah, it's going down. He's getting his combos, and holy
Yeah.
shit.
It's funny because like esports, I don't think people will realize this. It's literally the same thing as sports. The only difference is video games. The analysis of the games, the production value, the everything that goes behind esports, it's exactly like how sports is done, entertainment wise. It's
Oh,
just
I
video
know.
games.
I thought
Yeah.
that was fantastic when people were giving esports so much shit. They're like, I couldn't think of anything more boring, and this is so dumb. And it's like somebody else watching food or watching somebody else eat food. And I'm just sitting there, and anytime anybody ever questions, like, you like to watch that? Why do you like to watch that? And my response is, well, it's no different than you sitting there watching a basketball game or a football game.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go and play it and it's fun, but to see a professional play it at that level is something else entirely, and it's still extremely entertaining. It's just a different of interest,
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
just a different medium essentially. It's still entertainment, you know.
A
That's what
100%.
and that's what got like someone like Jimmy Kimmel in trouble for like saying it's like what's the point of this? And it's just like oh you don't even know,
Well,
sir.
Jimmy Kimmel's old as fuck. Let's
Yeah,
be
I mean,
honest.
but just kind of like a general public, like Jessica's saying, like when somebody's like, "Well, why are you going to watch this?" You're just watching somebody play something, and it's versus like, well, basketball and any other sports the same way. I mean, you're watching somebody play, not doing the sport yourself.
Like it's just watching the kind of decisions they make in a split second in the moment is insane.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, you can see, and the same thing like with like Overwatch plays. I mean, a lot like just happens in a second. It's like it can be a standard match, and like yeah, it's gonna be interesting like as far as like how you're gonna get that win, and especially if like somebody's like, oh, they pulled off this big play, and I forgot what team it was. I think it was a Texan team where like
I
it was on
forgot.
Ubani, and like they were moving the cart, and then the whole team kind of moved away from it to kind of what's it called to lay out some cover before the opposite team comes. And this guy was tracer, and he just walked on it and just like got to the next point. They're like they didn't even notice.
He ninja'd it.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
ninja it.
C9.
9, and it's like oh my god, he just got it. It's just like that. That's what I'm there to watch.
Yeah.
As a tracer main, I will say that I frequently try to ninja things, and I
You know,
rarely have that kind of success.
and the worst part too is somebody walked right past him as he walked over to the payload.
Oh, I know, that was fantastic.
I was like,
Didn't even
why
see
you do this?
him. He does not know the way.
Oh no, clearly just showed him the way because they won.
I think
Uh,
it's interesting though, with esports because you have leagues like Overwatch, which has a completely different structure, from what I understand, than other esporting events where it's more tournament based. Correct me if I'm wrong though, Nate, because I think I'm not entirely sure how esports outside of Overwatch works,
You mean
but I
like
feel like
the way they're running their games, like round robin style?
yeah, like how Overwatch now has this league and it has like group play and it'll work its way up and
Oh
it's
yeah.
kind of like a normal sports league.
Yeah, it's very similar to how like Dota 2 and League of Legends are doing the thing or doing their tournaments. It's pretty much the same thing.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, they do group play as well, and then best records play each other or advance, and then
Okay.
they play each other. I think CS:GO does that too. I think most competitive team sport games like
Hmm.
Overwatch, Dota, and League of Legends they do that round robin style play. Um, I think fighting games are the only ones that are different. Double or it's if you lose twice, you're eliminated. That's it. There's no
In fighting games?
in fighting games. Yes, in every fighting game that I've watched, if you lose twice, you're out. There's no round robin style of play. They've only done stuff like that for promotional purposes, but they were never at like legit sanctioned tournaments.
Mm.
They did the round robin style play for like a TV thing for ESPN, but that was it.
It's interesting to see how these things, in terms of esports, are moving from the computer platform and slowly moving into more of a television platform and being on networks like ESPN.
Mhm.
I remember being in Coin Op, which is a bar, and see it's like an barcade, and seeing Rocket League on the TV, and I like flipped my shit. I was so excited.
Damn.
Right?
And you play Evo on the bar TV? I'll go.
Yeah, they played Evo on ESPN. They played top eight. It was funny because it wasn't really like, advertised. It was just kind of on TV. The same time it was being streamed online, and I just remember Twitter going nuts. People were just like, "What the hell is this? This video games on ESPN?" It's the funniest thing in the
What?
world.
I'm sorry, I'm stupid, and ignorant. Can you please shed some knowledge to me what Evo is?
Okay, so Evo is just the biggest fighting tournament in the states. So it's just where all the competitors from across the world who play various games come and compete for the title. If you're an Evo champion, you're pretty much a world champion. It's pretty much the Olympics of fighting games.
Yeah, and that
That's
includes like
amazing.
it includes all like fighting games, include like
Yeah,
Smash, Street Fighter, and Tekken and all that stuff.
mostly all the
Okay.
mainstream games, as well as some of the smaller games. Like for instance, the biggest games, or as of now, would be Street Fighter 5, Tekken 7, uh,
Smash.
Smash,
Smash!
Smash Melee and the Wii U Smash, and
Yep.
then a couple like others, two games like King of Fighters and another one I forget. But they also do mini tournaments, or I guess just tournaments in general for a lot of the older games like Capcom vs SNK 2, and just like the older generation games that people still play.
Yeah, but like the prize fights are like Street Fighter and those kind of ones.
Yeah, the big money games are like Street Fighter, Tekken, and stuff like that. But that's what Evo is. It's the Olympics of fighting game tournaments. So everyone across the world. And what's cool is that, like when you see a competitor come up, if they're from Japan, if they're Korea, whatever, they'll put the flag next to the name of that player, so
Oh,
you
that's
know where
cool.
they're from. So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Oh, I forgot they do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, everybody that I know at some point has played a fighting game. And I feel like with the nostalgia and everything behind it, I don't understand why people were getting mad that the fighting game was being shown on ESPN, you know?
I think that it was the fact that it was a video game in general. People were like, "What the hell is this video game doing on a sports network?" You know,
Shit, man, poker gets what's it called broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Come on.
that's 100%
World
true.
Series of Poker.
Yeah.
It's not a sport.
It, they both require immense amounts of concentration.
And mental
And
thinking, yes.
it's very much a mind game.
Well, shit, chess is a sport too.
This is true.
I mean, there's multiple different, I feel like, definitions as to what a sport is. And I think it's interesting to kind
Hmm.
of be exploring the idea of online sporting and getting the recognition of a sport rather than just people playing video games. It's now moved on to something beyond that, you know?
Yeah. Hey, Eric, you know which one we forgot to mention? Cup stacking.
Oh,
That is a
and
sport.
darts.
Oh, yeah, darts is one.
Oh, also,
Darts is fun.
Yeah, darts is one.
so is Rubik's Cube solving. That's a
Oh,
sport.
yeah, that's right.
It's a very,
That's a
very small
sport?
sport. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that's
competitive Rubik's Cube people.
Dude, have you seen those? Those kids are nuts with those Rubik's
Yeah, it's
Cube.
not even a joke. They don't fuck around.
Like some of them will do like straight up blindfold and just do it as fast as they can. Oh my god.
I
Yeah, and they'll
saw,
get it done in a couple seconds. It's crazy.
yeah, I saw a
Oh.
video where it was like how how to solve a Rubik's Cube in X amount of seconds, right? He gets the cube, he shifts it around so it's discolored, and then he breaks it with a hammer.
I think I've seen that video.
It's the funniest thing.
There's a video where a guy he's practicing and he's doing it, and I think he was at a tournament, and he does this thing hella fast, and he puts it down. He's like, oh hell yeah! And he looks at it, and they're all looking at it, and in the middle of the Rubik's cube, there's one color off,
Like,
and he's like, oh.
rip.
Oh, that sucks. You get all the way through that, and there's like one color. Just
It was but it was on all the sides, just one color in the middle of each one.
Oh yeah, no, because you can do, if you know the patterns, you can create all these different cool patterns based on like the way you rotate the blocks, you know.
Yeah.
But back to esports.
A little bit.
Man, that Rubik's cube, man, they know the way.
Oh my
Oh
god.
god. I think it's interesting seeing how I feel like esports was just kind of a thing in the United States until it was just kind of like a bunch of guys hosting LAN parties at their houses and having fun until Twitch was founded. And just looking at, there was this really interesting, well,
There was stuff before Twitch. I mean, MLG was a thing.
there
Yeah.
was, but MLG did not do well. It
It
failed
didn't survive,
miserably.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in terms of like successful esports and the increase in viewership and money, I feel like all begins when Twitch was founded in 2011 because it offered this platform
For
that
people to
people
watch.
could easily watch. Yeah, and they gain audiences and viewers. And since most of the players were already online, it was easily accessible. And just real quick, just these interesting numbers from this video that I watched, thanks to Nate, was that during the LoL or League of Legends World Championship,
The low.
the LoL, which by the way, if you search for LoL apparently on Google, it no longer gives you laugh out loud. It gives you League of Legends, which
yeah.
kind of goes to show you how
How
much
big it
esports-
is.
exactly.
Well, it also could be your searches because it changes the search based off who you are.
Even in an incognito window, though, it still displays the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you would still see League of Legends before LoL, and supposedly in incognito windows or private browsing windows, you don't have that kind of cookies or caching or anything like that. Real quick on the numbers. In 2011, at the first LoL World Championship hosted on Twitch, there were 1.7 million viewers.
Mhm.
In 2012, it grew to 8.2 million. And then in 2013, it grew to 32 million independent viewers throughout the World Championship, which I think is staggering just to see in those 3 years, it grew from 1.7 to 32.
Yeah, that's not even counting, like, that's just like individual browsers watching it. That's not counting
Right.
people who are, or multiple people in a room watching the same thing. You
Right.
know, that's like a rough estimate at best.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still impressive regardless.
Which I thought was super cool. And it kind of, it suggests that there's only going to continue to be growth. I don't know of any recent numbers. Those are the only ones that I know of. But I know that there was, oh God, what was it? There was just a lot of viewers at the most recent. I mean, people are selling out stadiums for God's sake, for
Yeah.
these tournaments.
Like Dota 2 and League of Legends, they sell out instantly. Like when League of Legends does its tour, like it's a NALCS tour, so North America League of Legends Championship Series events, when they go around like Southern California, and sometimes Northern California, like they sell out easy, depending on who's playing.
And I think that there was some interesting statistic that showed, I think it was during Dota 2, during one of the World Championships, I think in 2016. The viewership for that tournament alone was greater than that of the NFL Super Bowl, MLB. What is it? What is MLB? World Cup?
Series.
World
World
Series.
Series, and then
hockey.
the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, the finals. Like it outweighed all of those independently, which I thought was fascinating.
It's insane, Like people think that video games are boring or like no one watches video games, but like these numbers are real. These numbers are legit,
Mm-hmm. And then we can also tie the increase in viewership to the increase of spending and outside investors. For example, brand spending on esports in 2016, there was $197 million on advertising and $128 million on sponsoring. They're anticipating, which was $325 million total just in 2016. They're anticipating that by 2019, there's going to be over $800 million in spending on esports, just brand spending on
Jesus.
esports.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean these brands they probably just figured out as far as like they see that they see these big events getting like watched and what's it called getting seen as far as like those like you said if like people are paying to go watch somebody play a game, and then just figure that the number is going up like ever so quickly, then yeah, why not invest in something like that?
Yeah, like even celebrities or like former pro players are all paying attention to it now. Like Rick Fox, the former Laker, he owns the team Echo Fox, and
That's
like
awesome.
it's
No,
insane. And he plays League. He streams it on Twitch. That
what
shit is
the?
Does he
weird.
really?
Yeah, he streams it on Twitch and Facebook sometimes.
That's pretty
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's pretty funny. But
And then
like,
I also know that Robert Kraft has invested a significant amount of money. He's the owner of the New England Patriots
yeah,
in esports in general, because I mean that's kind of where I feel like things are moving to.
Well, he owns the Boston team, right? I think
I
Mark
think
Cuban owns
so.
the Dallas Fuel.
I think you're right. There's
Most
a
of the actual big Overwatch teams are actually owned by like sports owners for different places.
Oh, really? I mean,
they
so
see, and
I
these
don't
are
know.
these are people who have made a lot of money though in investments. It's both Kraft and who was it that you said? Mark Cuban,
Cuban.
right, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah, he both of them I think made their money in investing.
Yeah. Well, they started
I
out
mean,
like small
obviously,
companies, and then
yeah.
they start going into venture capitalism, like the New York Mets, also on the New York Excelsior or something like that. I can't remember how to
Oh,
pronounce their
really?
name.
I know that like NBA teams are investing a great deal, and then I think there's even a few like UK soccer teams that are investing, like different FC teams that are investing in esports, which I think is incredible.
yeah,
Because they see the potential of it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
Like
with the goal with esports, definitely. I mean, we can clearly say like, yeah, it definitely has a presence amongst the mainstream.
Do you think that people who maybe aren't so involved in gaming will eventually come to accept and be as involved in um like let's say because there's like people who never play football but they absolutely love watching football. Do
yeah,
you think that the direction of esports will eventually reach that point where then we can start having viewership, like major viewership outside of avenues like Twitch and Facebook and YouTube, and have it actually be on networked television?
I
okay.
mean, like you said, I mean, it kind of like you answered your own question. I mean, as far as like if like we just to take your example, as far as like yeah, I mean, there's some people who don't watch one sport but they'll watch the other because they know there's a lot of what's it called? There's a big audience in one, so why not? Could it not go to the other? I mean, if you like this sport, then you're probably gonna like this sport. So if something like gaming, if it were to go like more broadcast, I think it yeah, I think it definitely could have it if they can if they notice that like say like you said like 32 million people are just watching League of Legends alone, then I could see eventually in the future that it can have a definitely have a big broadcast like that. Like if you were to watch like the Super Bowl or something like that.
I think the viewers, well, yeah. I mean, as the generations of people go move along, like our generation and our kids' generations and stuff like that, eventually we'll watch esports. Like esports will just grow from here. Period.
Yeah.
As far as it being on television, I think that's very different. I don't see it happening at least within the next 5 to 10 years. I
Yeah,
think,
I think it's gonna
yeah,
take time before it gets there, but like I said, I think eventually it will get there. Like you're saying, with our generations behind us.
yeah. I think the viewers will be there definitely. As far as being on actual television, uh, not so much, or not anytime soon, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I mean, we're like you said, we're in like the earlier stages of esports, just because I mean it's been around for a good amount of time right now, but I mean it probably will take just like I said, I think it has to be more vetted in to be considered, you know, be considered as far as trying to think as far as being like as big as like football or basketball. Because I mean, like I mean, over time, I feel like you'll start to see people grow up and like, oh, esports as far as like all this gaming, this does have a presence. And I think if you give it as far as giving it a chance, like I said, further somewhere down the road where it's going to be more widely accepted. Because I think if anything, esports isn't as I think more of a like very like small stage right now, even though it's worldwide and everything like
Mhm.
that, taking that account. But I
Yeah.
think eventually it will grow even more, where, like I said, it will be considered more of a larger sport.
I don't know. I have to be honest, personally, I don't
Yeah.
know if moving on to because everything that I read was anticipating esports moving on to a more like televised national TV platform.
Hmm.
But with the shift of viewership, I feel like especially with the younger generation, as that's going to be what leads what is going to be shown on both television and online. Um, there's a major shift I feel of people watching television as to those watching streamed services and Twitch TV and YouTube and all of that,
Yeah.
where it's much more involved. You feel like you're a part of something. You get to share your opinion immediately, right then and there. And people are listening and people are reading that. And I feel like that amount of involvement is going to draw more people to these esport games, than on television, especially with the audience being mostly people from, I think, 18 to 34 years old. And I think the shift necessarily, in my opinion, I think it's a mistake for esports to move on to a televised platform. And instead, I feel like it would be more profitable for them to remain on an online and push for that online streaming.
Oh, okay.
The
I
online
see. Yeah, I
platform.
see what
I
you're
see
saying.
what you're saying. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with
Okay.
that.
No, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Because the thing
Uh,
is like even with television, like people are moving to the online platform to watch television
mhm.
anyways.
Yeah, and like you said, like with something like Twitch and other things, people are watching that, from their phone, from the computer, and everything. It's more, accessible, and I think that's what people also like, the fact that watching these sports is like they can kind of watch it anywhere and
Yeah.
having it with them.
Yeah, exactly. It's you're never too far from it then, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you have a
You don't have to
phone, you
record it
have a
on your phone.
tablet,
Mhm.
your laptop, whatever. It's easier than having to bring an actual TV with you.
yeah,
You know.
and it's like, oh, what's it called? Like Seoul and what's it called? Boston are going against each other. I'm gonna go watch that right now. You
Yeah.
just pop it up.
Just turn on your
And then,
computer.
mhm. And it's super easy. At least I know with Overwatch, with the way that that's formatted on Twitch, which I really like. I think it's super easy and super accessible to anybody, even if you don't like you're not tech savvy. It would be easy for you to find it and watch it. But what was I going to say? Oh no,
I
what was I going to say?
think the
Oh, what I
yeah.
like is that immediately after, almost immediately, within the same day, they'll put each game or each match as a video clip. So if for whatever reason you missed the game or you
Watch
wanted to watch it,
highlights.
you can watch the highlights, you can watch the actual match, and it's all available right there within a few hours rather than and you don't have to worry about recording it or anything. It's just kind of already there, which is what I think is really nice.
Hmm.
Well, they do the same thing with like NBA League Pass, or if you ever watch like NBA D League games, they'll also show those games on. They'll show them on replay. So it's just the same as a lot of other streaming services that are pay per view or pay for TV kind of things.
Yeah, it's just with esports. It's kind of they're doing it in their own like similar but different format
Yeah.
to
I
that. I
Yeah,
would
mean,
say.
yeah,
that's how they
using the
do it.
Twitch to its full effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Capcom does with Street Fighter when they have tournaments. So they'll stream it on Capcom Fighters, which is the Capcom Twitch account for fighting games. And after they play it and get the revenue from the Twitch stream, they divide up the actual matches and put them on YouTube. It's another easy way for them to get revenue from YouTube. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of different ways as far as like making money, especially through streaming. As far as like something like Twitch.
Now I know that they have Eric. I think you mentioned that there's like an NBA pass or something that you can pay for.
Yes.
NBA League Pass. It shows all the games, or you can get like a regional pass, and it'll just show your team's games, and then they'll also have the games on replay. They can have like a cut down version of it that
Mhm.
doesn't show like commercials and stuff later.
Do you have the ability to choose which game you want to watch when you do that, or is it just whatever it is that they're playing?
You can watch it live, or you can watch replays of the games for X amount of time. I don't know because I've never actually owned League Pass, but I do know they show like replays and stuff like that.
Yeah, the one thing that I would say that I like about just the online service is that you can choose. You can kind of pick and choose because there'll be multiple matches within a day, just like there'll be multiple basketball matches or basketball matches, basketball games. And what I like about just the online and the esports gaming and all of that is that you can go in and you can choose, and it's easy to find those full games immediately at your fingertips. Whereas with something like I think the NBA Pass, it's based on what they want to show you.
No, no, you can just watch whatever.
You can choose whatever game you want to watch.
Yeah,
Okay, so
that's
I'm a
how it
little
works.
bit okay. That makes more sense now because it sounded like I was imagining it on TV, and it was just a channel that you pay for, and they just keep playing replays of this of different games throughout the day.
No, it's multiple channels available, multiple replays, all of that stuff.
Okay, that makes more sense now. But this kind of brings up the next thing that I feel like could and should be talked about is that there are so many avenues for streaming these games right now. You have Facebook, you have Twitch, you have YouTube, you have Amazon, which might jump into it. I mean, Amazon owns Twitch now, so they're kind of already in it.
This
Yeah,
is
they're
true.
already
Um,
in it.
yeah,
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 they're knee deep in it.
yeah. They're already really deep in it. And then there's also, I think, a few free streaming things that are offered through different games, maybe. I'm not sure, but there's so many different avenues for streaming. In addition to just competitive gameplay, you have independent players who will just stream their games on a competitive level. Do you think that that is going to become more regulated and that people may start creating their own networks, or they'll continue to rely on services like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and try and grow like independent clauses or whatever? What's it called?
Like their own websites.
Well, no, like yeah, exactly. So like let's say that Overwatch decided that it was after its contract with Twitch was up. It was instead now going to move on to its own streaming service. And now in order to watch, you have to pay so much money either for the season or like a flat rate each month to watch. Do you think that esports might move in that direction?
I could
Mm.
definitely see that happening.
It's a
Yeah, if they
possibility,
really want
definitely.
to capitalize on making money from it, then yeah. I hope they don't. I don't
Yeah.
think they will, or not anytime soon, anyways. But it's hard because everyone else is trying to capitalize off of their products, so I can see it happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be kind of be more of a shame if they. I mean, like I said, it wouldn't be surprising if they try to capitalize it more. It'd be kind of be a shame as far as like making it so you don't, you have to like service it and people have to buy, I don't know, subscriptions or one-time things because I think that's like the really the beauty of just having something like say like the Overwatch League is just like you can just watch it. Like it's not like I mean you just maybe have an account or no, you don't even have an account. I think about it, you can just watch it straight up, and I
Yeah.
think that's what one of the greatest things about it is.
Yeah.
But if they can make money on it, they'll usually find a way to make more
Yeah,
money.
exactly. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Like it definitely is there and it could happen, but it would be, you know, it would just be saddening. But
I mean,
We would
if they could.
also want
Oh, good.
I was just gonna say we would also want to keep in mind that these leagues do take money to run. There's a lot of production costs
Hmm.
and overhead to these leagues, and so it might be more cost effective and feasible for them to move on to these pay as you go kind of networks, just so that you can support your teams and your players and the actual league. You know.
Well, I don't know because Dota and League of Legends and Counter Strike all that stuff, they've never done stuff like that. Like they've always just streamed for free. You can watch. And I think they pay for themselves with what they're getting, not only from Twitch, but ticket sales and
sponsorships, I would think too.
the sponsorships, yeah, and investors.
Well, if you
So
can make money, they'll usually try and find it because it all it just takes is just one entity to try it and be successful for other entities to jump in.
Yeah,
yeah, I know.
yeah,
I'm just saying that like so far it hasn't. I haven't seen it happen where they're trying to, I guess, set it up where you can pay for a streaming service. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
see.
seen
I
it.
see what you're saying. As far as like, even when like in the beginning it was, and to even now it's still running pretty strong without really having
Yeah.
to rely on, you know, scripting it.
Yeah, because I mean,
It's
I'm saying that medium kind of come through just like the games themselves for like game companies trying to make money for themselves, but I haven't seen it through any streaming services or any way to kind of like, I guess, capitalize more on the viewership for the competitive scene. So,
Yeah.
the one thing that I will say is that what was that? Oh god, damn it! My mind is broken. It stopped working, guys. It occasionally does like little reboots. So give me a moment, and I will reconsider what I was going to say.
that's all right.
So
Yeah, I just think
Candy
that,
Candy Crush Esports, let's go.
oh,
Candy Crush. So
Carousel.
about Candy Crush Esports.
That's not that.
I'm really excited about this, guys.
It's just
Man.
insane though that like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Lucas.
No, you're right. Good.
No, it's just insane that like some games, and it's very similar to how actual sports is. Like, you know, there's NBA and NFL, there's hockey, and there's baseball. Those are probably the biggest sports, right? Then you have some of the smaller sports, like let's say softball or things like ping pong, where like it's known to be a sport, but like no one really knows about it.
Except
know.
the Olympics.
Yeah, true. But it's the same thing in esports. Like there are so many games out that have competitive scenes that don't get the same light of day as others. Like I play Rainbow Six Siege, and like that has a competitive scene. It has an
Son of a
actual
bitch.
esports scene, but it doesn't. You know, no one. It's not as big as like Overwatch or like League of Legends, and same thing with like shit. There was another game, but yeah, just there's some games that don't see, you know, the light of day. Like they have like a small, strong following, but they'll never see that big following.
Yeah, something for Siege. I would love to see a leak for that. That'd be interesting.
Dude, I watched the league. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I can
Oh.
I
show
was gonna say
you.
there is a league for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there's a
was
leak
gonna
for
say
it.
something as far as like I'm trying to remember. Well, they were saying something about as far as I think I heard it from somewhere. It was like something with the 2020 Olympics that there was gonna be some video game.
Oh yeah, they're trying
related.
to put esports into it. Yeah,
Yeah, I heard something about that, and I thought that was like I was like, what? All
That's
right,
not
now
gonna
we, yeah. No, it's just like the fact that it's not so much considered as far as like it's out there as a possibility is like something that even if it's not gonna happen anytime soon, that'd be amazing.
yeah. Like I'm just happy that Street Fighter got on ESPN. Like,
See, I think that that's awesome. I have to say that I do not believe that esports should live in the same
realm.
sphere as the Olympics.
That's fair.
I think you can have your own Olympics within esports,
Hence Evo.
but I but I don't think that you should combine the two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, that's fair.
Because like I mean, you look at League of Legends. I don't know what the actual thing is, but I guess it's the World Cup. I mean, it's just every country coming to play, and it's just like, you know, Korea wins,
Yeah, well, it's League of Legends.
and then in Dota, it's like Europe or China wins, primarily Europe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then like in Street Fighter, it's like Japan wins,
Oh God, Japan, man.
and then like Tekken, it's like Korea wins. It's like, god damn it.
What does America got? Does America got anything?
As far as esports, no, because
America has football.
trash.
Any sort of like NFL sports?
Well, yeah, Madden. There's a
Madden?
competitive Madden.
There's a
And you-
competitive Madden scene. There's a competitive NBA 2K scene.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I remember reading that and being really surprised to find that as a
I'm pretty
thing.
sure there's a competitive FIFA scene too, but that game
Yeah,
is
that
boring as
definitely
fuck.
that has to.
That does not surprise me. I imagine that it's really big in Europe.
Yeah.
Probably. For all the
Yeah,
players who
FIFA
couldn't
is-
make it to actual soccer.
It's like the same thing, though, that would be said for like basketball and all the other games, you know?
That's true.
Like you really like the game, but you were never very physically gifted, and so instead you
So
went
you just
to
play the game.
video games. Yeah.
That's true.
You're like, I can't slam a dunk in real life, but I can do it in this video game.
I'll play LeBron and dunk the ball.
Yeah. Ball is life, bruh. Ball is life.
Controller's life.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where
I hear you,
esports goes in
Luca.
the future. Like
I think that there's going to be a lot of conflict between streaming services and then like independent streaming service. And I think that it'll be interesting to see in 5 years from now or even 10 years from now, especially with how quickly esports is evolving, just to see where it's at by the time we're like 30, 35 years old. It's going to be this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, and then our kids are gonna be watching like, holy crap, Fuel Action is winning for once.
Well, the interesting thing is whether or not those games are going to age well. Like some games age well, yes, but like you look at the Call of Duty scene or whatever, how that goes through a new game every couple of years. Like games will live and die, and whether or not our kids are going to be watching the same games we are is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it'll be interesting seeing the lifespan of different games. I mean, LoL obviously has been around for years and it's evolved and grown wonderfully.
I mean, even like Nate said, as far as like with Evo, they even have the smaller tournaments as far as with the older games. So I mean, those, it seems like those are still like within the relevant scene.
yeah. Like those guys have those small games legit still have cult followings. Like it's pretty nuts.
Especially like with Super Smash Melee. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's not a cult following. Like that's
Well,
still
you know what I
huge
mean.
across the
No, I'm
world.
saying they have a nut. There seems a nut.
Yeah, I mean the fighting game community, the fighting game scene in general is nuts.
Yeah,
Like, I mean they're cool people, but like just watching them play is so cool. Like, yeah,
Nate's just a little bit of a fangirl, that's all.
because I really like fighting games. Just like when it comes to esports for me, it's just kind of understanding and studying what goes through the people's minds when they play. It's one thing to just play the game, but to understand the mentality behind the decisions they make is insane.
Hmm.
Like as far as like if anyone wants to jump in for this, it feels like with like this is like yeah, you can play all the sports and you can be really good at it, and maybe some people aren't able to do these sports, but as far as like when it comes to like video gaming, it seems like that's a more widespread audience as far as like anyone for the most part can do it, and it seems like it's more like what's the word? I would say like more
It translates better because
yeah.
there's less physical activity. As long as you have two hands or a controller or whatever,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah, it feels like it's more open to anyone, and it doesn't feel like you can't be too old, you can't be too young to play.
I will say though that in argument against that, there are a lot of people who just don't play video games because they don't have any interest in them.
No, I mean for the people who have the interest and probably can't play some sports, but with like video games, I mean certain people. I mean like I said, even though video game community is like big and widespread as far as like the people who are interested, can play most video games, and you can get better over time with it.
Yeah, definitely. Do we have any closing thoughts, people?
I think esports can make it. I think with time.
Yeah,
It
I believe
doesn't
that
take
too.
cardio to play esports.
What'd you say?
Hey, dude, after one of those Overwatch games, there was one of the players they were interviewing, and he was sweaty, man. He
Yeah,
sweated.
I saw that.
He like needed 3 towels to clean up his sloppy wet mess.
Yo, he was carrying hard though.
He did carry hard. He played a really strong game.
That's why he was stressed out. He was sweating.
I know we're short in time, but the guy who what's it called, that one player that got fined $1,000 for flipping off the camera.
Oh, he was fined for that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Overwatch is a family-friendly league, even though we're shooting and killing people.
See,
I mean, it's
I
the same
mean,
with
there's
any
no
video
blood.
game.
only the
Same
blood
with
of my
any video game,
enemies.
so.
All right, Eric, do you think esports is going to make it? Do you think it'll be taken seriously?
Too much money in it.
So it's too late to go back now.
Yep, too much money in it. What's going to be interesting is when the contract's up to see whether they decide they want to go for something that's going to be more profitable or stick with the current system.
Yeah.
Nate?
No, I think esports will be around for a while. I think that maybe the current games won't make it, but there will be games that come out that will be played in a competitive format anyways. Because right now, what's being pushed a lot is just online multiplayer games. And anytime you have that's team-based, it's going to be some kind of competitive scene. So I mean, I think esports will always be here. The question is whether or not it makes it to mainstream or like television.
Yeah.
Whether that happens or not, it depends on how we grow as a generation.
I think that TV as a medium is dying, and so I think it'd be a mistake for
That's true.
for them
That's
to
true.
move on to something like TV because the mainstream is shifting away
Yeah.
as our generation gets older from television and into more online based platforms.
Yeah. It's like how newspapers are dying.
Yeah, which makes me really sad. I really like newspapers. And like books, now everybody's got their stupid Kindles, but no, printed books, man.
No
It's
more
all
comic
about
section.
books. Oh, the comic section was the
Cartoons.
only section worth reading.
Right? The only one word, and they're gonna be gone.
All
It's okay.
right.
I have anime. It's cool.
I only need my waifus.
Oh God, okay, before we start talking about waifus, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. It sounds like the consensus is that esport is going to continue to stick around. It is going to continue to be successful. And whether or not it becomes mainstream is still left to be seen
Pretty much.
as that mainstream is shifting. Thank you so much for joining us for this So Sad Tuesday talk, SSTTBB.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric.
You
I
guys have a
felt
great rest of
cringe.
your week, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Or at least we'll talk to you next Tuesday. Bye,
BB.
guys. Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.